Welcome to 1111. I have Miles today. Hi, Miles.
Hey, Tone. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. I'll jump right in with what does inner work mean for you?
Well, it was an interesting aspect. Inner work kind of found me. My wife sent me a post of Dom's, our leader, in the group, and it's something within me awoken when I saw this text that he had written on the post, and I didn't even know. I couldn't even really comprehend it. I don't even remember what it said, but it woke me up. And in this aspect, inner work for me was the pursuit of self mastery. It was the willingness to really investigate aspects of myself I had really not wanted to really confront in the past, right? I either had been actively avoiding and suppressing or just subconsciously numbing. I was afraid to kind of go there. So now all of a sudden I had this world that was available to me to really have curiosity and also bring myself grace in a non judgmental way and say, hey, why are you the way you are? And who actually are you, though? Because that was the big thing that I started to realize is I've been on a path to decondition who I was taught or raised to be, and instead now on a path of trying to remember who I was born to be.
What do you feel like has been a few milestones within this journey? I'm kind of curious of what kept you committed.
A number of personal stories come to mind, but I would say that for starters, understanding my values has been helpful for me to know that actually self mastery is one of my values, and inner work for me is part of self mastery. And I know that it's actually an endless pursuit. I'm never going to think that I'm done growing or that I have reached the pinnacle. I actually very much think it's an evolving, ever moving door, right? It's something that we continue to aspire toward. So in this case, the things that keep me going is this desire to just continue to up level and elevate my understanding of myself, my understanding of God, and the way that I relate to others. And in this case, though, one of the main highlights that I can remember, like in our journey together, we had the great man meditation one time, and it was in that meditation where I learned that the great man was not actually this external thing beyond me that I had to reach toward, and rather he was already a part of me within me. And when I connected those dots, it was like, oh, just go deeper, keep going in. And then as I kept going in and in, it's like an onion, right? We start to peel back the layers and we start to get a little more curious. And as one level of us heals, a new layer emerges for further healing. So it's not like, oh, you're healed, you're done. No, now you're able to just access another part of yourself that needs a little bit more healing. But a lot of our immersions, the in person experiences, were where I had pivotal moments happen. And the first one was that great man meditation.
Mhm, mhm. And now you've been able to take that and make it your own, provide other men the opportunity to go through that. And it's a beautiful experience I've been able to witness with you. Do you want to share anything else on what you've been able to learn through this experience and how you're applying it in your life today?
Yeah, well, one, it was deep, deep honor and privilege that you joined me in my own experience, and I'm starting to cultivate and create for other men. The inner work journey and this men's work space and this arena have had such an effect on me that I've desired to create it for others as well. And it would be selfish of me to just keep this to myself. So I feel like I have to bring this to more men. And I think by you having this podcast, that's your version of bringing this to more men. The work that I'm putting out, I know other men in our group, like we're all almost like little branches of the main tree, right? And we're all branching off and we're spreading the gospel. And in this case, the aspects of the inner work journey have been, for me, related to deepening my relationship with God, though. Because as I've gotten back to the self, it's allowed me to have this new relationship with God that I never had, where to the point I was actually afraid to even say God in the past. And now I don't feel like I'm alone any longer. I don't feel like I've turned away from God. I'm not just saying source. I'm not just saying universal intelligence. I actually feel like God's right here within me in my heart and in my soul, and then also around me and walking alongside me as I'm journeying as well. So that was the thing that probably surprised me the most about the inner work journey, because I grew up always saying, well, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. I don't really believe in organized religion, yada, yada, yada. But that made me turn away from God, and it had me viewing God in a lens that was only through the organized religion lens. It was not through my own unique experience. And now, this inner work journey has allowed me to cultivate a unique experience for the self. And my own experience now feels like the more I understand the self, the more I actually experience God.
Mhm. Authenticity, it's like radiating from you now. And I feel like it's been a journey through that. And more as you work with other men in this, I think you're shining more of that authentic Miles. What do you think is a key component of you tapping into this inner work to showcase what you had to remove barriers in your life to get that authentic self?
Well, Tone, I appreciate the reflection because I have had a number of bullying experiences my entire life, all the way back to fourth grade, sixth grade, ninth grade, junior year of high school. I transferred because the bullying got so extreme. I even had a couple experiences in our own men's group, right? So I even had someone make a fake MySpace page about me. I had someone make a fake Instagram about me, like a lot of different targeting at different stages of my life. And I never could figure out why. And I realized that I've always been comfortable in my own skin, yet I feel that the bullying experiences were moments and opportunities for me to go deeper and root further in my own power and in my own authentic self. And yet, more times than not, actually, really, frankly, my entire life, I turned away from that and I allowed others to dim my light because it didn't feel safe to be Miles. Because what I was getting taught by society is that actually Miles being Miles is a thing that's going to get targeted. So I eventually had to get to an understanding of, oh, it wasn't just a, oh, they're jealous of you thing. It's no, it's just that your radiance, your light, your authentic self, that vibrancy that I possessed that was just innate within me was a mirror for other people that I think started to make others uncomfortable. They didn't know what to do with it. So it wasn't them deciding, how can I elevate and be curious? Because that's not what generally society models to us. Instead, it was actually, how can I take this thing down so I don't have to feel the way that this mirror is making me feel? So in this case, now my entire purpose and passion on this planet is to help men understand their purpose, their fulfillment, and do it through a lens of creating an authentically aligned life that's creating the abundance that they desire. So, how true can we be to the actual essence of who we are? Can we start to discover what our truth is? Can we start to realize our inherent power within us and be willing to shine that light onto others? Because, in my opinion, it would be selfish to keep your power to yourself, to hoard your gifts and not share them with others. I actually view as selfish. I think it's more selfless to go ahead and share that light with the world and allow people to receive it however they want. If they're not ready to receive it, that's okay. And it also doesn't have to come from a defensive place. It comes around, it's not like I'm better than you place. It's a, this is me. Can I stay rooted and embodied in my knowing of saying, this is me? And if you're not comfortable with me, I'm okay with that now. It doesn't mean I need to defend myself to you. It doesn't mean that I need to force myself onto you. It doesn't even mean that I need to drag you to my level. It rather is just, I'm like a tree. I'm right here, 2 feet on the ground, ascending up toward the heavens, able to sway and weave with whatever may come my way, willing to share my gifts, my branches, the life that's coming from me with anyone that comes around. And even like the tree, in my death, I hope I provide life. So that for me has always been this guiding light of how can I really just authentically be me? And I've had all of these opportunities challenging me and saying, you can go deeper. You can go deeper. Can you start to really fully express? And even we just had an experience in our group where it was, again, another opportunity to say, hey, can you let them see the real you and not hide yourself in a way where you think you have to fit a certain mold? Because my defense mechanism was being a chameleon. That's what
Mhm.
I did to protect myself as a young boy after these bullying experiences. I learned how to be a chameleon. Any group you put me in, I learned how to fit in. And I was a well-liked guy, popular athlete, like girls liked me. I got great grades. There was really nothing wrong with my childhood, but I got targeted at different stages. And it led to me learning how to be a chameleon and go with the group think of the group. So instead of me having my own mind and developing my own thoughts, I was always externally outsourcing my own intelligence to others. And then that even further went into the inner work world, where when I didn't know what actual inner work was, it just was personal development, where I was going to read every book I could find. I was going to listen to a podcast every second I had. So I was outsourcing my own desire to learn who I am through other people's work, through other people's words. I didn't have the abilities or the tools to actually go within me and say, no, what do you have to tell yourself? What is within you here? And that's now what I want to help men with. The men that I work with, I don't want to tell them, hey, be Miles. I actually want to help them be more of themselves
Mhm.
just by being a mirror and offering thoughtful questions.
Is there anything that's really helped you while you're working with men today on a first thing to do when they're curious in this state, when they're first jumping in?
If I'm working with a man, I do technically like to start with what are your pain points. I actually like to get really curious about where are you observing these struggles in your life. And if you have the conscious awareness around where you may be falling short of your standard, or you may be having some challenges present, but you're just feeling a little overwhelmed, like I don't know how to tackle this. Once we identify the pain points, then we have an opportunity to start looking at how can we start to address some of these things. But a unique thing that I like to do with my clients as well is I like to actually talk to their partner. So I would actually encourage any man who's listening to this, if you're like, well, I don't know where to start, I would actually ask your partner. Not in a way, now, I don't know if you're going to feel safe enough. Not everyone has the same safety that I have with my partner, right? I got a great partner. My wife creates a very safe environment for me to be challenged. But I've done this exercise with her and I do it with my clients where I say, ask your partner, ask your woman to speak to the highest potential of you. Have them speak to the highest potential of the man that they married, and also reflect to you the pain points they're seeing that are preventing you from accessing that highest potential. So if you can go through that exercise in a healthy way without them just pointing the finger at you and, cursing you out or something like that, if it's done in a conscious way, it can be one of the most reflective exercises you ever do, because now you're not only going through your own pain points in your perspective, but also the person who's around you the most. And now you have this third party, say me or someone else, that can now help moderate and help navigate and alter the course of your trajectory in a healthy way toward the most vibrant, enlightened version of you. So I found that to be a really powerful exercise, a place to start. But if you're like, well, I don't even have a partner, I'm single, what do I do? Then I would actually just try to find men that you admire and that you aspire to be like, and try to be in a room with those men. Not that you're going to start copying them or mimicking them. I want you to be yourself. But if you can be around other men, like I was around Tony in my group, I by osmosis grew just by being in Tony's presence, just by being in Robert's presence or Sean's presence or Keith's presence, Mark's presence. Like I grew just by being in that room. I was a sponge at 30 years old, where men who were 10 or 15 years older than me, now I'm just able to benefit literally just by being in their presence. So if you're overwhelmed and don't know where to start, I would literally just start by getting in a room with men where there is a safe environment for brotherhood to be cultivated that's actually going to call you up. It's not going to be a place where it's just venting. It's not going to be a place that's just saying, oh, it's okay. It's actually a place that's going to say, there's a standard here. There's going to be something for you to live up to, and it's going to be defined by yourself. And we're just going to help hold you accountable to that thing. But it's not just about goals. That's what drives me crazy about some of these men's groups. It's like, did you hit your goals? It's like, it's so much bigger than that. It's so much bigger than that. This is an inner work game. It's about the inner workings of the self. It's about knowing who you are. It's not just, did you crush your workout today? No, it's why did you do your workout? What's the thing underneath it that's driving you to do that in the first place? Well, I just numbed out on the TV. Well, why'd you start watching porn? I don't know. Well, can you get curious? Let's start to investigate. And that's where I think brotherhood and proper leadership can also be really influential.
Mm-hmm. Really good advice. And I think that resonates with a lot of people. Looking back, the last 3, 4 years, is there anything else on inner work that you've learned that you applied through your life, aspects you want to share today?
I very much feel the more authentic we can be, the more inner alignment we will cultivate, and the more abundance we desire, we will actually receive. So I really think if you can get to a place of understanding who your authentic self is, and if you don't know how to do that, that's where other men can help you get there. Other guides can help you get there. Simple exercises like asking your parents what was I like as a child? If you happen to be a father listening to this, observe your 3-year-old, observe your 2-year-old, see what that toddler is doing. They know exactly who they are. They're confident as they are. They haven't absorbed any of society's conditioning that's telling them to be full of shame. We talked in our group about shame and guilt and the difference, etc. Our children are shameless. It's society that teaches us to be full of shame. So, can we start to remember who we were when we were born? And of course, we don't have any memory of that. So, how do we know? Well, in today's day and age, now the new kids have an opportunity to be able to watch videos themselves, but maybe we don't. So, what do? Well, ask people who are around, but then also start to think about other activities you did when you were 7, 8, 9, 10, during that formative 7 to 14 age range where you're developing your emotional awareness. And start to unpack these activities in a way where you're getting curious about, well, what aspects of me was this activity representing? I went for a ride on my bike with my friends, but what was that bike ride actually representing? Well, there was entering into the unknown. You didn't know who was going to answer the doorbell. You didn't know where the day was going to lead. It was a sense of adventure. It was an opportunity to go explore. It was a day out in the sun. It was movement and activity by riding a bike. It was brotherhood. It was sharing. There were all these things that you can pull from a simple activity that, like, oh, that's when I was lit up. So if you start to figure out where was I lit up, then you start to figure out that's actually more of my authentic self. So if we can get to the root of who your authentic self is, now you can start to be more intentional with cultivating the inner alignment that you desire. I'm a dentist because I was scared and I sought safety. It was safe for me to go choose dentistry because my father was a dentist, because that's what I knew. But I didn't know who I was when I made that decision. I made every every aspect of my current life right now was made from an unconscious standpoint, where even though I thought I was making choices, they were programmed choices that were based on someone else's patterns or conditioning. It wasn't true to me, because what 18-year-old actually knows who they are? Especially not when we have these phones in front of us and we're just staring at a screen all day. We don't actually know. You're not out pondering. You're not capable at 18 like the 18-year-olds that went and fought in World War II. Very different 18-year-old, the one in the 1940s versus the one today. So, all that to say, the more we can actually get to the root of who we are authentically, the more we can cultivate proper inner alignment and bring intentionality to creating the life that we actually want to live today. And that's abundant. Abundance is a feeling. Abundance is not dollars in your bank account. It can be a lot of money, but the money is a byproduct of the abundance that you already possess. It's not acquiring the money at everything else's expense, and then you're morally bankrupt everywhere else in your life, but you have millions of dollars in the bank. That's when the men are needing this work the most, because they've pursued this external thing that they thought would make them feel good, and in the process they their entire being. They don't know who they are anymore, and the money defines them. Their confidence is derived from their identity at work, their ability to provide, their self-worth, their value. That's not actually from inherent within. It's only based off of external measures, things that you can literally quantify. Oh, well, I made X dollars last month. My job produced, Z result. I now know that I'm a good person. I'm doing okay. But can you actually just believe that for yourself without having any of those external measures of proof? So for me, I think that would probably be something I'd like to highlight for people.
It's inspiring to hear that story and see you today leaving the dentistry practice to go do your most authentic work. And I know that had to have been scary. It had to have been nerve wracking to say, can I really leave the secure world, everything I knew of, to go a little bit into the unknown? And anything you want to share on that transition moment, on how you were able to really jump into it?
I'm leaving a $3.5 million business that I could make well over 500,000 a year for the next 30 years. And the financial aspect of my family could be completely taken care of. No issues. I also have $650,000 of student debt still. Every reason financially would be to stay as a dentist and remain here in New Jersey. But I've chosen to follow my heart, and I've chosen to follow a very intentional life where I want to live a life that I don't want to retire from. And living a life that I don't want to retire from, for me, means living in my purpose. It means actually being able to blend the passions and the purpose that I have with the ability to provide, with the ability to still be a man. I'm not going to go just float in the water and have no responsibility. Rather, I'm going to be very much rooted in my true, most embodied self. Hopefully, the most healthy balance of masculine and feminine energy that I can cultivate. The piece that I was missing, though, where the resistance was for me before I finally made the plunge and took the leap and said, I'm picking a date, we're moving, I'm done January 30th, we're moving, we're going to go across country, we're going to go live a different life. The piece that I was missing was faith.
Mm.
I had the dream, I had the belief, I wanted to go take action, but something was blocking me. And I call it the bridge of faith and the road to willingness. So in this case, I needed to cultivate blind faith that was rooted in certainty and a knowing from within me that I can go do this and that I am giving myself permission to do this. And I'm going to be willing to take precise action to execute this. So now I've had the courage to be willing to take action. And now every piece is in place. I still don't have any proof though. I still don't know if it's going to work, Tone. I'm not sure, but I believe in my heart that it's no longer a belief and rather that it's a knowing because of the transmission that we're experiencing in this podcast right now, because of the transmission that we experienced in the masterclass that we did together. Because I have a knowing within me that I see in other men's eyes that when I speak to them and I talk to them, that there is something coming alive in them because of the passion that I feel in myself. I'm not saying it's because of me, but I'm helping other men see themselves for who they are. And I know that's my purpose. I know that's why I'm here. So in this case, I'm leaning into that knowing and trusting and having faith that it will all work out. And because of my now new relationship with God, the faith has been stronger than ever because it used to be a false faith. But now it feels like it's rooted within me and it's coming from an eternal source.
If you look back on your 22, 23-year-old self, what do you think you would say that 22, 23-year-old Miles, now that you know what you know?
Trust yourself more. Actually learn how to listen to your gut. Learn how to feel your feelings. If you can bring your body online and actually bring it into phase with your mind and your spirit and your soul, then you're playing with house money. That's true inner alignment. That's when you hit those epiphany states. That's when you are in flow. But I spent my whole life in my head. I was not connected to the heart.
Hmm.
I was doing everything that I thought I should do, everything that made logical sense. But if I could do it over, I would just tell that 22-year-old, lean into your heart, trust your intuition, tap into the innate abilities that you have that you're suppressing because you're afraid to let other people witness your power, because you think they'll turn away from you and continue to shun you. And that's going to affect your self-worth. So in this case, I would have told myself to trust myself and just go for it.
Beautiful. Miles, if people wanted to work with you, how can they get in touch with you?
Best place to find me is on Instagram. It's just my name, Miles_Santo. Otherwise, though, as well, I have another business called the Radical Collective. It's another group of 4 other men plus myself, and we've got a few different offerings: the Radical Universe, the Radical Path. We have a challenge that's happening as we speak. So there's always opportunities to work with us. So either me individually or the collective, both are great places to start.
Great. Thanks, Miles. Appreciate being on here today.
Thanks for your time, Tony.